Thank you for this opportunity to read some of my poetry. Tonight I have 3 poems for everyone here. The first poem I wrote about my great-grandma shortly after she passed. She's been in my mind lately because we recently sold her house. It's called A Portrait of a Proper Lady, and she was definitely a proper lady. Since the 80s, my grandma had owned a well-furnished sunroom. It was there that the light reflected off passing cars, skimmed past muted blue curtains, and landed, hovered, and danced across her delicate features. It was there we sat on petite wicker furniture, the vibrant indoor plants spilling out of their pots, their long winding arms reaching towards the light, towards my grandma, away from me. She was regal, her legs pristinely crossed, her hands deliberately folded. She stared out the crystal panes, towards the honking traffic, the dirty potholed roads, the blue-hazed Walmart sign less than a block away. But my eyes watched her. Her bones were light like a bird's, her limbs long and graceful, with a porcelain complexion and softness of down feathers. If she were a bird, she'd be a swan. I couldn't quite decide where she would fly to, though. She is gone now, but I catch myself remembering how she loved my hair, the way it cascaded down my shoulders in ringlets. I think she'd be disappointed to know that a box of bows lay untouched by my bedside, but she'd smile gently if she saw me as I used her typewriter. That's the first one. Thank you. My second poem is pretty self-explanatory, I think. It's just called 2 Girls by a River. We stood by the river, shoulder to shoulder, glancing into the murky depths. You told me the darker the color, the deeper the waters were. I thought that was pretty self-explanatory. I pointed to a white blob floating 100 feet off and asked you what you thought it was. You said a white flower. When the current brought it closer, we could both clearly see it was a box of cigarettes. Neither of us mentioned the white blob again, as our words gently weaved in and out of light conversation. But as the mist grew heavier, across the dock on which we both stood, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, I couldn't help but think that it was part of the human condition to be wrong, at least for now. As if hearing my ponderings, the sun began to dip below the mist-covered horizon, fading the hills covered in the deep green of ancient trees into blackness. Only then did the smell of the evening greet us, while the rain drizzled down on our uncovered heads. That's the second one. And this is the last poem I'm going to be reading tonight. I was inspired to write it because when I was working at my school library, we were sorting through books, what to keep and what to donate. And I found this one book of poetry with this poet that I really loved, and her name was Tomoko Yamakawa. And I'll just read a little bit of who she was as a person. Tomoko Yamakawa was a waka poet who died of tuberculosis at 29. One of her most well-known works from Yamakawa Tomoko Volume 17 of Gendai Tanka Zenshu states, this is her poem, "Let me be born a woman again in the world to come, and I will love the flowers, and I will love the moon." And so when I read that, I was moved, and so I decided to write this poem in response and kind of dealing with the emotions while reading that. I had read her words from a book speckled with white mold. Let me be born a woman again," she said. Never had I read such sincere words. My lace dresses always seemed to cling too tight, and delicate china looked quite ghastly in my callous fingers. But I too love the moon, and I too love the flowers. I may only believe in one earthly life, but if that happens to not be the case, then turning to the night sky, I'd repeat, let me be born a woman again.
Hi. So today I wanted to read, I have a poem and a short story. Is this? So my poem is called A Broken Vase. And so one day, I take my broken vase to a repair shop, and the man turns it around in his hands to see every angle, inspect it completely, like he should. And he smiles and nods and says that he can repair this, and when I return to take the vase home, he has turned it into a lamp. I've fixed it! It will light up your room! I have enough light. I wanted a vase. I do the work to undo the work, at home, myself. Remove the innards, remove the shade, scrape off the new unwanted paint, find the old crack that was never repaired properly, smash it again. Now it is my friend, the broken vase, and I will find someone new to repair it. If not a lamp, it's a stool or a box or a teapot. Endless work to undo their work. I learned to recognize the signs, to ask before I hand it over, and I see when they don't know what a vase is. Who, I cry, knows what a vase is? What is its function? To hold flowers. Why do you want flowers? Because they are beautiful. Not to me, but I am not you. But you should be. But I'm not. Endless, endless work, undoing their work, their words. My friend the broken vase and I returned home, and we never mend our cracks because I don't know how, and no one can help until they see what makes a vase a friend. And now I have a short story called Alone Beneath the Thunder. The best part about being a wild dog is that I'm always hungry. When I'm hungry, I need to hunt or I die. If hunting keeps me busy enough, then I can't think about humans, remember their touch and their loving voices, long for their cozy homes where they wanted to protect me. They're all dead now. As long as my people never tell our children about them, they will fade from the planet's memory and the grief will finally end. Tonight, my hunt is interrupted by rain, and then lightning, and then thunder. The crashing is like a gunshot, reaching into my memories and forcing them back. How I wish I had a human to hug me through the storm. I find shelter, a wretched, long-abandoned thing that used to be a house. Once I'd thought houses were alive, but it's clear that it was them. Humans put so much life into all their world, a passion so infectious you could smell it. But this house has none of it. It might as well be underwater, it's so unfamiliar. I have seen many rooms. I have seen rooms like this many times, but I can't even be sure that this is on Earth. There was a fireplace here. I stretch out in front of it and weep for those awkward forced hungs that sang to me of safety. A crash of the thunder, and also a crash in the house. Something else hides from the rain. Dinner? I lift my head, sniffing for clues. What comes in the door is what killed the humans. It used to be one, robbed of its aliveness the way this house has been. It smells like death, flesh so rotten in places its bones are visible. The zombie and I lock eyes. I tried to kill all of them when I was younger. There were too many. And then I got old, and I got tired, and there were no friends to give me hope, so I don't attack. After a moment, the zombie shuffles uneasily past me and groans itself into a sitting position in front of a long window. It stares out at the rain, and I stare into the missing fire. The thunder screams at me, like a human in pain might scream. I wonder how many of those screams that zombie has heard. No movement touches the room, but it's equally full of dust and sound. 3 rumbles, thunder and my empty stomach and the zombie, its stomach as well. I hadn't thought about that. They have eaten all the humans. There is nothing left. That's good. They don't deserve to live. How many humans has this zombie bitten? How many have I? Many. As a puppy, I was starved and beaten. Then I was rescued and snuggled and wept over. In between, I was cruel and angry and wild. I bit when I was afraid. The zombie flinches at the thunder. It tries to hide it, but I recognize it. There is no human to provide comfort in this storm, but there is someone who remembers them. I pull myself up on weary feet and plod toward the zombie. It tenses up and pulls back, just like a half-dead puppy once did. I lie beside the zombie, and I rest my head on its lap. A moment of hush, even the storm holding its breath for us. The zombie makes a wordless sound, an overwhelmed, "Oh," and it rests its hand on my head, clumsily patting. We both know the zombie won't last forever. Maybe it will starve before the storm has ended. But as long as I pass on what I know of the humans, as long as I teach what they taught me, then their memory will never fade from this planet. They brought life to all they touched, and we will sustain it if we can.
I'm working on a book right now called Alpaca Adventures. That's my working title. I'm hoping to come up with a better one. This is a chapter partway through where it's about a couple that inherits an alpaca farm with some interesting characters and an interesting clause. They have to live on it, even though they've never been on a farm before in their life. And this wakes up after spending the day on the farm, and they wake up on the farm. Isaac and Jessica woke slowly and naked in each other's arms. The early morning sun peeked through the curtains. She snuggled a little closer as he kissed her face and neck. The cuddling continued until Jessica stopped everything. "What's that?" she asked. "You seemed to know all about that last night," Isaac smiled. She rolled her eyes and shook her head. She looked confused. "I'm talking about that noise coming from the nightstand." Isaac listened for a second, and then he rolled off Jessica toward the nightstand. He immediately opened the drawer and grabbed his vibrating phone. It was a call from a coworker. "Thank God I got a hold of you," said Jacob, Isaac's closest friend at work. "We lost the Kamansky account last night, and the firm is firing everyone who worked on it Monday." Isaac nervously looked over at Jessica, who was sitting up with a questioning look on her face. He held up his hand to keep her from asking anything and turned his attention to the phone. "But I have 2 other accounts that still bring in money," Isaac said. "I can't believe this is happening." "Sorry, pal," Jacob said. "I thought you should be prepared for what you're walking into on a Monday." Isaac tried to ignore Jessica's attempt to get his attention. He was trying to think where he might have a copy of his last resume, if he could lure one of his accounts to go with him. He thanked Jacob and hung up. He knew Jessica was waiting for him to say something. He turned to her. "We lost the Kamansky account," Isaac said. Jessica's jaw dropped and then shut. "Wasn't that your company's biggest client?" Isaac nodded. "How does that affect us?" Jessica asked. The expression on her face told him she already knew the answer. The two gave each other reassuring hugs that lingered. Isaac kissed Jessica before they separated. "I guess we better pack and head home." Isaac got up and began to gather clothing they had scattered about the room the night before. Seeing what he was doing, Jessica got up and collected the items. The two bumped into each other once while they were looking under the bed. Jessica got dressed first, and she helped him find his last sock, which was, for some reason, hanging on a nightstand lamp. "We should let the attorney know we're heading back," Isaac said, while sitting on the edge of the bed, tying his shoelace. Isaac checked the time while putting on his watch. It was 8:30 on Saturday morning. At the time, he would normally be heading to the gym and play basketball. Afterward, he and his friends would go out for breakfast. He chuckled to himself while he looked around the room. "What's so funny?" Jessica asked. "I was just thinking about how different this world is from home," Isaac said. "This house is so huge. The alpacas are so strange and such strange creatures. And then there's Angus." Jessica looked around and nodded in agreement. The two of them headed downstairs. Isaac's cell phone rang. It was his aunt's attorney. "I hope you have already had a restful night," Jeremy said. "I'm just calling to see if you have decided what you plan to do." Isaac looked over at Jessica and mouthed the word Jeremy. She nodded and continued down the stairs to the living room. "We're heading back to Chicago today because something came up at work," Isaac said. The phone line was silent. "So you decided not to live at the farm," Jeremy said. "Not a problem. I can put the place on the market next week." Isaac looked over at his wife, who was examining a painting of a deer hunt over a stone fireplace. Leaving now would mean walking away from his inheritance and going home to look for a job. Could the farm be what they need to start a family? We haven't decided, Isaac said. Then, per your aunt's wishes, you're going to stay another night. Isaac nodded before saying yes. The attorney sounded relieved. Jessica leaned into him to whisper, "Ask where we can get some breakfast. I'm really hungry after last night." For a moment, Isaac forgot he was on the phone. It wasn't until Jeremy was asking if he could still hear him that he returned his attention to the attorney. "I guess we're staying," Isaac said. "Do you have any suggestions for breakfast?" Jeremy gave him directions to a diner in a nearby town. Isaac repeated them for Jessica, then hung up. "Jeremy told me if we blink, we might miss it," Isaac said. "The town has only Casey's and a diner." "No grocery store?" Jessica asked. Isaac opened the outside door to Jessica for Jessica to go first. The couple walked out on the porch and expecting to see Angus, who wasn't with the alpacas. Isaac wondered what the man might be doing. The alpacas had started to gather to watch them get into the car and leave. "Do you think we should reassure them that we'll be back?" Jessica waved at the alpacas. "It's as if they really want us to stay." Isaac shook his head, and before driving off the property, Jessica had the window rolled down and was letting her arm feel the country air rush by. Isaac admired her beauty, and she smiled and let the wind swirl through her dark black hair. "I wonder if there's a minimum size you need to be called a town," Jessica asked. "Maybe we'll find out." The town of Meadow Creek did have more than just a diner and a Casey's. There was also a church and a grain elevator across the street from the Sunrise Cafe. The tiny restaurant had a counter, 2 tables, and 3 booths. All were full except for 1 table. "Howdy," said a woman wearing blue jeans and a blue polo shirt with the diner's logo, a rising sun over a hayfield. "I haven't seen you here before. Are you going to need menus?" "Yes, please," Jessica said. The server smiled and they turned away. She was back within a few seconds with 2 well-worn, plastic-covered paper menus. "You two wouldn't be the couple we've heard about moving into the pocket farm, are you?" Isaac and Jessica looked at the woman in shock. Neither said anything until a man at the counter turned and asked them what they thought about Angus. Dressed in overalls and a blue denim shirt, the man was in his late 60s. "We haven't learned much about him," Isaac said. The restaurant chatter stopped. "I don't suppose you could tell us anything about him." By now, no one in the restaurant was pretending not to be eavesdropping. Jessica and Isaac nervously shifted in their chairs while waiting for the man at the counter to speak. The old man appeared to enjoy the attention. "There's not much to say," the man said after he had turned to get his cup and taken a sip. "Your aunt showed up with him one day and told us he was special. She bought some alpacas and put them on the work on the farm. That was about 10 years ago." A middle-aged woman on a table next to theirs tapped Isaac on the shoulder. "They say he sings to them and even sleeps in the barn with them." "So where did he come from?" Jessica asked. The woman at the table next to theirs shrugged. "No one knows," the man at the counter said. There are rumors that he may have used to be kept in an insane asylum, or maybe he the old boyfriend your aunt had rescued. Jessica and Isaac scanned the room for anyone who might want to talk. No one seemed interested. "Is he dangerous?" Jessica asked, while looking for any change in the restaurant's mood. She began to look at each customer for an answer, only to see them all turn away. "What are you not saying?" The server tapped the pen on the tabletop to get everyone's attention. "For pity's sake there's no reason to scare these 2 kids." Isaac ordered pancakes and sausage. Jessica went with waffles and strawberries and whipped cream. The waitress smiled and went back to the kitchen. Isaac and Jessica nervously grinned at everyone while they were waiting for someone to talk. The noise of a tractor rumbling by was the only sound. "He's normally not a problem, but you never know how he'll react," said the man at the counter. "He spent 30 days in the county jail after he was in a fight with a truck driver." A woman at the other table said, "He's fine if you don't disturb the alpacas." Several customers nodded and mumbled in agreement. All conversation stopped when the sound of a small bell announced someone had walked in. A man wearing an orange Carhartt T-shirt entered and waved at everyone. The waitress grabbed a bag from the counter and handed it to him after he had paid. Then he smiled and left. "Why did he get in a fight with a trucker?" Isaac asked. The man at the counter drained his cup. "No one knows." The waitress brought the couple the breakfast and refilled their coffee mugs. The rest of the diners either returned to their food or got up to pay. The waitress cheerfully greeted each one by name. No hurry, she said to Isaac and Jessica after she placed the bill on the table and before she went to greet another customer. Isaac and Jessica watched the waitress ring a bell at the kitchen window and hang a paper ticket with another order before grabbing a cloth and wiping down the counter. The couple looked at each other and grinned. I guess we're pilgrims visiting a whole new world, Isaac took a sip of coffee. Jessica nodded. This is turning into an interesting adventure. Here we are. Okay, this is called She Said Hello. It's a short story. All she did was say hello. Just hearing that one word changed everything. If I close my eyes, I can almost feel the rain washing over me, causing me to shiver from my toes to my teeth. You talking to me? I asked. Yes. Why are you standing out there in the rain? She asked, peering at me from her open door. This is where I live. You'll catch your cold if you don't dry off, she said, smiling. Come inside where it's warm. I need something to help me with some moving some furniture. I lived on the street long enough that I didn't trust people. Even though I was in my early 20s, I could still pass for a teenager, the desired age for most of the men patrolling this parts of the town. Don't judge me. I did what I needed to do to get by. Women rarely took time to look at me more than once. She was different. I felt as if her eyes were trying to devour me. What do you want me to do? I asked, walking into her townhouse, dimly lit at first floor. Well, worn couches and overstuffed chairs gathered in clusters on one side of the room. A heavy-looking wooden dining table dominated the other. Maybe there was a room available where I could spend a night after I finished whatever I had to do. First, I want you to clean up and put on some dry clothing, she said. Her slightly damp gray streaked red hair glistened in the dim light. I think I have some dry clothing that should fit. Washing up and getting cleaned clothes just might be worth whatever she had planned for me. Better than getting a few bucks or a punch in the face. Sure, why not go along? At least I'm off the street and out of the rain. Here's a towel, washcloth, soap, and shampoo, she said, shoving the bundle at me. Might as well take a shower while you're in there. You can you can find a disposable razor in the shaving cream in the medicine cabinet. The overhead bathroom light exposed an old but clean fixtures. None of the faucet leaked. The water was even hot. I made a note to make sure to use mouthwash sitting out on the counter. It was the least I could do. You, she said over the sound of the shower. I'm putting clean clothes out for you. She was gone before I had a chance to say thank you. Maybe she just wanted to get a peek. At least she was nice about it. Feeling truly clean for the first time in weeks, I put on the clothes she left for me. The soft fabric felt heavenly. Wiping the condensation off the mirror revealed someone who had looked like they'd been some person I barely recognized after 6 months on the street. I have something for you to eat when you get out, she said after knocking on the door. You must be hungry. Wow, I'm going to get fed? The aroma of cooked meat welcomed me as soon as I opened the bathroom door. My mouth watered just thinking about food. Surviving on trash can leftovers would keep you going, but that's all I could say for it. Come sit down, she said, smiling. What would you like? What would you like to drink? Whatever you have is fine. Then water it is. I sat where she told me. I couldn't wait to dig in, but she stopped me just after I picked up a piece of meat with my bare hand. We pray before we eat, she said, handing me a napkin to wipe the grease off my fingers. Had Had she not insisted on wiping my hands, I would have gladly licked them clean. We also don't eat with our fingers. After a tedious long prayer, she passed the mashed potatoes, and then the gravy, and then followed by a bowl of Brussels sprouts. I'm not a big fan of Brussels sprouts, but I put them on my plate anyway and gave them a good try. I want to thank you for everything, I said between bites. We don't talk with our mouths full, she said. Sorry. She smiled and told me I was forgiven. We didn't talk much during the rest of the meal. She asked where I was from, if I was from the area. No. Did I have living family members? No. I lied about that. I guess I wasn't much of a conversationalist. What did I care? I had clean clothes and good food. She kept touching me, my arms and shoulders. It felt good. Cuddling is not normally as part of the product experience. You stay right here while I get things ready for you, she said. But I said after we had finished, not knowing when I would get another meal like this again, I stuffed 2 muffins inside my shirt. She must have seen me do it, because when she looked at me, she was smiling just a few steps away. Are you ready to do the little chore I asked? Yes, ma'am. We walked up the back stairs, and arm in arm. She stroked my hair and rubbed my back along the way. There was barely enough light to see the steps. She escorted me to a doorway. There's something in the back I need you to get, she said, gently guiding me into the dimly lit room. Sorry it's so cold. After letting my eyes get used to the light, I walked toward the back where she told me to go. That's when I heard the metal door slam shut and the sound of the padlock click. Sorry, the groceries are so expensive nowadays, she said. I have to make do with what I can get.
My father died about 10 years ago. His demise was a familiar one. Typically, it's a path that leads to frailty, loss of independence, a slow decline that ends in a nursing home. So it was with my dad, an experience that proved difficult for him and me. I want to share with you a few minutes from a nursing home visit that I paid my father. The cafeteria is littered with wheelchairs whose occupants are in various stages of decay. Delivering breakfast, dispensing meds, and doling out loud greetings, the nursing home staff gives energy to the morning. My dad seems oblivious to it all. He sits in his wheelchair, eyes shut, shoulders slumped, closed to this new world where he spent his last few months. Always proud of his independence, he's unaccustomed to being taken care of by others. Acclimation is slow. I sit next to him, his middle-aged son, wondering what he's thinking, wondering how I can get him to eat that breakfast in front of him. A nurse approaches the table. Touching Dad, she asks, "Ray, aren't you going to eat your breakfast?" Stirred from his other world, Dad looks up, slowly focuses on the room around him, and shakes his head no. "You have to keep up your energy," she encourages. Receiving no response, the nurse gives me a small smile, hesitates, and moves on to offer care to another resident. I have an idea. I pick up the spoon in Dad's cereal bowl and carefully move it towards his lips. As the spoon approaches, he opens his mouth unthinkingly, like he does so often when pills are regularly offered to him, and he accepts his Honey Nut O's. I put the spoon back in the bowl. Dad slowly chews his mouthful, swallows, and then opens his eyes. Wordlessly, he begins to finish the cereal himself. As I choke back memories of a man who was once strong, vibrant, who for 30 years in a steel mill just downriver climbed tall cranes to repair them. Can this man next to me be the same man I played catch with, wrestled with, and who until recently always bested me at golf? I'm glad my spoonful offering stirred him to finish his meal. I'm also sad that I've done it. You don't forget the first time you feed your father. change the mood a little bit with a work that I did not write. I'll identify the author in a moment. The difference between a good writer and a great writer might be the employment of figurative language, such as metaphors, similes, personification, hyperbole, and the like. However, Ogden Nash, a celebrated poet from the first part of the 1900s, in his poem entitled Very Like a Whale, suggests that we need to be careful with how much simile and metaphor we actually use. Very Like a Whale by Ogden Nash. One thing that literature would greatly be the better for would be a more restricted employment by authors of simile and metaphor. Authors of all races, be they Greeks, Romans, Teutons, or Celts, they just can't seem to say that anything is the thing it is, but have to go out of their way to say it's like something else. So what does it mean when we are told that the Assyrian came down like a wolf on the fold? Well, in the first place, George Gordon Byron had had enough experience to know that it probably wasn't just one Assyrian, it was a lot of Assyrians. However, as too many arguments are apt to induce apoplexy and thus hinder longevity, we'll let it pass as one Assyrian for the sake of brevity. Now then, this particular Assyrian, the one whose cohorts were gleaming in purple and gold, just what does the poet mean when he says he came down like a wolf on the fold? In heaven and earth, more than is dreamed of in our philosophy, there are a great many things, but I do not imagine that among them is a wolf with purple and gold cohorts, or purple and gold anythings. Now, Lord Byron, before I'll believe that this Assyrian was actually a wolf, I must have some kind of proof. Did he run on all fours? Did he have a hairy tail, a big red mouth, big white teeth, and did he go woof, woof, woof? Frankly, I think it very unlikely. And all you were entitled to say at the very most was that the Assyrian cohorts came down like a lot of Assyrian cohorts. About to destroy the Hebrew host. But that wasn't fancy enough for Lord Byron, oh dear me, no. He had to invent a lot of figures of speech and interpolate them, with the result that whenever you mention Old Testament soldiers to people, they say, oh yes, they're the ones that a lot of wolves dressed up in gold and purple ate them. That's the kind of thing that's being done all the time by poets, from Homer to Tennyson. They're always comparing ladies to lilies, veil to venison. How about the man who wrote, her little feet stole in and out like mice beneath her petticoat? Wouldn't anyone but a poet think twice before stating that his girl's feet were mice? Then they always say that things like that after a winter storm, the snow is a white blanket. Oh, it is it? Well, all right then. You sleep under a 6-inch blanket of snow. I'll sleep under a 1/2-inch blanket of unpoetical blanket material. We'll see which one keeps warm. And after that, maybe you'll begin to comprehend dimly what I mean by too much metaphor and simile.
Thank you. This is a letter to DOGE, the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, and it's in the genre of political satire. Dear person in charge of DOGE, is your suggestion box full? You have room for one more. I haven't researched my idea, but I believe that is in keeping with your process of slashing and burning the departments and manpower of our government without taking a deep dive into the ramifications. So here it is. Eliminate 50% of the staff and the budgets allowed to our congressmen and women. I don't know what the size of their staff and budgets currently are, but I'll bet they've grown quite a bit over the years. Who pays for these? The American people, right? Let's make the senators and representatives shoulder some of the burden of financial cuts to make our country great again. By making this patriotic sacrifice, they'll have to work harder for the American people. To be effective, wouldn't they have to read more for themselves, do their own research, write their own drafts? Won't that bring them closer to the issues of the day? You could include reducing their perks, limit travel, have them stay at cheaper hotels, make them pay a membership fee for the congressional gym, pay for their own meals, and the luncheons, oh my gosh, the luncheons. Give them a few a year. They do talk about important matters sandwiched in between other topics during these gatherings. With these changes, couldn't they still legislate as effectively as they do today? Further, are energy-saving products being used at the Capitol and in adjacent office buildings? LED lights, do they shut them off when they leave? What temperature is maintained in the summer? in the winter. About the People's Building, I hear some windows and doors got smashed in a few years back. I hope they caught and punished the people responsible. I can't imagine anyone could justify such behavior. Were those windows and doors replaced with high-quality, energy-efficient units? Could you check on that? I'm not sure what information your department has given access to, but this should be easy to find out. I would not, however, suggest that the legislature's health care benefits be reduced in any way. Too many of them have lost their backbone over the last several years and will need spinal transplants when and if the current administration leaves office. Now, you can claim huge savings for my idea, regardless of what the actual figures would be. Just use your special Doge calculator. I bet you don't have to worry about an audit being performed on your department. If you say you're transparent, that's good enough for me. If you can figure out a way to include term limits in these cuts, that would be great. Legislatures who feel they're entitled by their time and service expect more and more. I know your department would be strongly supported by the American people for this move. You have to admit, you need some good press. Speaking of good press, I'd like to speak about your department's image. The huge chainsaw is a good idea. That image really hits the mark. But the weird guy who's waving it around solicitously while he enjoys every minute of publicity for cuts that have such serious consequences to the lives of millions of American people, that's creepy. You better watch out, a friend warned me after I showed him my letter. They may mess with your Social Security or do something else revengeful for generating ideas such as this. This is America, I replied. We're not some third world country that persecutes people for their ideas. But I got a friend who got fired. That's not the same thing, I scoffed. I only ask two things if my suggestion is accepted. Apply it fairly. Republicans as well as Democrats must sacrifice in the same way. And can you pay me $50 for it? I promise to claim it on next year's taxes. Respectfully, Jerome West.
A lady I asked her, okay, what do you want people to write about? I mean, because you say that, some people walk away being told what to write about. What do you want somebody to write about? And she said, hope. And I thought, okay, so this is in response to her. Hope. Hope gives you something to look forward to. Hope heals ills. Hope gives you strength unknown. Hope is sometimes still. Hope changes the future. Hope carries you through hardships. Hope makes you stronger, and hope gives you a kick. Hope builds up confidence in all things misunderstood. Hope fulfills dreams of things you never thought you could. Hope changes bad to good. Hope makes a stronger nation. Hope is not giving up. Hope is beyond condemnation. Hope is something good. Hope can enter all who live. Hope is a strong belief of something better yet to give. Hope was the past, present, and future. Hope envelopes adults and the smallest children. Hope builds determination because better is ahead. Hope makes you confident that good is in the direction you seek. Hope is for the poorest as well as queens and kings. Hope is very gratifying and adds to love and faith. Hope is there to help you. Hope makes it possible to wait. Hope can be solitary or have many to want the same. Hope makes it possible for achievements and successes to be attained. Hope builds you up and carries you through it all. Remember, hope is what picks you up, no matter how many times you fall. My next two poems are a series of poems that I thought I'd write, and it starts with "Once There Was," because I thought, gee, I could write about everything. So it goes endless, right? So here's my first, and because next month is May, it's dedicated to mothers. Once there was a mother. Once there was a mother who had very many kids. She didn't know how to care for them all. They're your children, not your friends. They need guidance and love. They need protection and someone who cares. They need to have someone to go to when they get scared. So this mother grabbed this advice and held them oh so tight. She spent the money she worked for and gave to their needs and to guide. She spent every moment she had to disciple, love, and feed. She taught them right from wrong and taught them math and to read. She gave them hugs and kisses and put notes in their lunch every day. She took the time to listen. She instructed them to pray. There were many time outs and favorite things taken away, for she and her kids both knew bad behavior makes for a bad day. Then the kids grew up, had children of their own, and each and every one of them made their house a home. Once there was a mother who spent time with her kids most of her life. She was always there when needed. Now she smiles, looking on with great pride. Now, I hope I can make it through this one because I usually cry every time I read it. But once there was a pauper. Once there was a pauper, a young boy of 12. Always wore a smile, his life a secret he would not tell. He always wore clean clothes, although he only had a change of 2. Washed them at a friend's house, a friend that kept secrets too. He worked hard at home and double hard at school, learned to read at the age of 2. He also knows a lot about tools. He built homes of sticks, mud, and clay, dreamed of building a house of his own someday, with rooms to sleep, rooms to work, and even rooms to eat and play. He would give all he had, though little he did have, to those who had none or nothing at all. He wanted them happy, not so sad. He gave and gave and gave some more and worked to help them where in the need. He would pick fruit from open fields just to be able to give them to eat. Then one day the pauper fell ill. Fever so very high, the friend who kept his secrets saw he didn't come to school and wondered why. The friend spread the word, and all about the town people were told the pauper might die, but he needs help. They did all they could. Together they raised the funds to get him to a doctor to see with special care and attention. This could be his remedy. They found the pauper had nothing, lived in a big hole in the ground, kept his clothes at his friend's, and wondered how his kindness and love existed at all. They suggested a home with the grocer and his wife, who a child they could not bear. They were more than delighted to show him someone cared. But everyone everywhere in town had love for this special boy. They joined together to give what he gave them, a life with love and joy. Once there was a pauper who had not a single thing. Now he truly understands what it feels to have wealth greater than a king. Freedom. Oftentimes people think, don't take my freedom away. But first we must know what freedom is to understand how it's taken away. If freedom is to act in a way that harms someone else, your freedom can be restrained for safety and rid of the filth. If you think freedom is to own a gun, you certainly have the right, but do you have the right to kill anyone in sight? If you think you have the freedom to do just as you please, then everyone else can do the same. What a fallacy. To really believe you are free to act in any way you want, you need to realize the consequence and what that action costs. People died to set you free, to live in peace, not war. What gives you the right to disrespect all the things those people died for? Freedom comes at a cost many won't think to pay. It's not to do anything you want or free to speak anything you say. Freedom is not for only one, but you must consider all. Freedom is there for all of us to live in harmony. Hatred is not the call. If your want for freedom delivers something wrong, you've just chosen to throw freedom away, for to all freedom belongs. You've given up that right. It can be taken away. It's up to you to make the right choice, to let freedom take its place.
I'm kind of excited to read some of these poems to you guys, so that way, I can get some real feedback rather than the browbeaten smiles I get from everybody. Yeah, okay. I'll start off a little lighter, and then we'll get into some more. Less light, because I didn't start writing anything until a maybe about 18 months ago, to kind of deal with some of my feelings that I didn't realize I had, because I'm a pretty stereotypical dude, and don't know how to handle emotions. So I started writing stuff down to try and help me figure that out. Okay, so this first one is called Elephant in the Room. Can we talk about the elephant in the room? No, not that elephant. Or that one. Please, not that elephant. Let's talk about the big fluffy pink elephant that my daughter wants me to hang from the ceiling so that she can swing from it like Miley Cyrus in Wrecking Ball. Yeah, that elephant. That one. Thank you. This next one is called Defeated. I've been defeated. She has more stamina, more determination, stronger too. Then she hugs me. I am the strongest. I can take on the world. I can take care of her. I'm glad I got that jar of pickles open, or this would have ended differently. Thank you, legitimate laughs. I appreciate that. Always afraid that I'm not a very funny person. Okay. This next one, I don't expect any laughter, okay? This one is called Missing Me. And yes, I left the title Missing Me on purpose. I never used to miss you. Today, I do. When I would go away, I'd relish the time alone, to do what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. I'd come home, you'd say how you missed me. I'd say I missed you too. I don't know if I did. I didn't feel then the way I feel now. I was still learning how to love someone who wasn't me. I was still learning how to love me. Now, I love me, and I love you. And I'm learning to love more. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for missing me. I miss you too. Yes. This is my wife. If you couldn't tell, that's why I was looking at her. That one aimed right there at her. Okay. This last one. Our foster son went home to be with his biological mother. So this one is called Tying My Shoes. Numb. That's what I've been feeling. Crying. That's what you've been doing. Shouting. That's what she can't stop doing. Arguing. It's what he was doing for no reason. That's what we thought in the moment, but the moment has passed, and we know better now. He didn't understand his feelings. She understood only a little better. You see a ray of hope. I'm crying while I tie my shoes.
Okay, so I have 3 poems as well. And the first one is called Felix Copa, which means fortunate fall. Okay. Man has flit like a leaf, his fate torn asunder from under the tree. His eyes glint with envy. Oh, how remarkable our resemblance. Soul in solstice, in winter he waits, with the kind of longing belonging to longer days, passing down worry like a second-hand gift, watching the second hand steadily tick. As the wind creeps in through the broken glass, A river of tears flows like blades of grass. As the first bird waits for the flower's bloom, this caged man sings his sorrowed tune. Still, to hope's sweet song he harks, and waits as dawn breaks from dark, a flicker of light through the iron bars. Oh, how fortunate a fall! Behold the beauty of it all. A misery eclipsed by epiphany is greater than none at all. Thank you. And this one is called Never a Waste. I've come to believe the value of love is not found in reciprocity. A love unrequited, I can never say that word. A love unrequited may outweigh any other. In this kingdom of light, it is our currency. In this hour, it is what we need most. May I drop it in the cup of those who curse my name. May I fill the empty pockets of my enemies. May I give to those who have given to me, and even more to those who can't. I have found a bubbling fountain of pennies. I step in with bare feet. I fill my hands and drink from the source of its supply, the King of Light, love incarnate. So I will give without limit in this limited time, foregoing my fear of it being misplaced. What I mean to say in fewer words, love is never a waste. Thank you. And this one doesn't have a name. Sometimes I like to think that if I died, the world would tie dandelions to their shoelaces in remembrance, hug a tree or something cheesy like that. But tonight, I hope they'd forget. Sometimes I wish I could count each memory, weighing amber-tinted kindness against neon green mania, performing some sort of morbid mathematics to determine just how much it all meant, if my good outweighed my bad, if I meant something to someone, if I meant anything at all. I swim as though her smile is an ocean that would somehow wash me clean, salt water burning against my cracking skin. I stand as if basking in his warmth could somehow thaw what froze beneath my chest long ago. But tonight I know it could not. For once again I am floored by the fragility of human connection, by my incessant need for sacred intervention, by a love found exclusively in you. Tonight I am a pine needle on the forest floor. Tonight I am a child on a crowded bus. Tonight I am nothing, nothing, nothing. Tonight I pray that my ego would be etched in pencil lines, that if I were to leave, humanity would shed not a single tear too many, that if I were to die, the world would simply pick up the book that saved me and find life. Thank you.
This one is kind of a summary of when I looked at the flyer. I got inspired when I just looked at the flyer. And this is called Prophesying Upon the Harp. I won't go into all of it right now, but because I got to deliver this. Somewhere along the rock, somewhere along the rock. It's a short segment of my Song of Songs soundtrack theme, a song, a tender love note. In my discovery, in my discovering Dixon, the rich orchard. I gotta say it again completely. Somewhere along the rock, where no radar is there. Sea in my discovering Dixon, the rich orchard, I heard the calling. I heard the calling for all along the rock, in the rock, like in a sack in the valley. Along the rock, like a sack in the valley. Creative record keepers. They open the mic. After my escape in my 71st year, escaping from a cave of treasures in a Babylon building in Chicago. April, it means opening. April opened, giving voice. April opened, giving voice. 2025, if you add it up, it adds to 9, the number 9. And I've been experiencing a lot of turning. Things are turning. Showing the next picture. Does that sound familiar? Turning, showing the next picture, verse and chapter along. It's been a long time coming. From Chicago, I'm glad I've been. I'm glad I'm escaping. So glad. So glad to be. So glad. Holy electing and angels. So glad to be in the rich orchard, where my snake stompers are more at home than there in Chicago, along the rock. When I came to Dixon, I was informed that there was a rock for me in the river. And I said, well, where's the rock? I got it in my saddlebags, y'all. I had to come to Dixon and get the saddlebags. Since I've been in Dixon, I got a little baby bearded dragon. Amen, that baby bearded dragon, his name is Koak. And that means wealth. And Dixon means a wealthy. Well, it's a rich orchard. It's a it's a wealthy place for me. Along the ride.
Hello. I don't know what that instrument is, but I want one. That is pretty cool. My name's Kayla Sipes, Tembor Sipes, and I used to be a financial coach, and I just had a baby last year, and so I decided, since I can't do one-on-one coaching with people now, I wrote 2 books. So this is the first book that's out last year. So this is the introduction I would like to read to you today. So here we go. As I sit on my parents' back steps, the cold draft turns my toes into icicles. I sniffle with every sharp breath. The green coral carpet pokes me through my tights, causing my skin to itch. The tears start to freeze as they go down my face. I am not going to dance tonight, I yelled to my mom. Kayla, if you don't go to dance tonight, then we are telling your dance teacher that you're done for the year, my mom replied. Fine, and I stomped my feet. I went back in the house and I took off my leotard. I was 5 years old. I had thoughts in my mind, but I didn't know how to express them to others. I had a deep desire not to go to dance that night. Why? For one simple reason, which I was too embarrassed to admit. Instead of telling my mom the truth, I threw a fit. Does anyone else have a child like that? Yes, yeah, me too. Yes, see? Yeah, I have an Ivy too, like that. The truth about that night was that I was embarrassed to do London Bridges falling down in front of all the parents. Instead of telling my mom and teacher that I didn't want to participate in this fun activity, I avoided the situation altogether, and that, my friends, is how many people react to adult responsibilities like their finances. People would rather avoid the topic of finances instead of facing them head on. They would rather go through life ignoring the truth about how finances work. They hide under the covers and hope everything will just work out. They would rather take the easiest route to the result that results in short-term peace of mind instead of pushing themselves to learn new skills so they can have long-term financial freedom. With the right skills and mindset, finances can bring meaning and purpose to our lives. To accomplish this, we have to be brave enough to face the truth about our financial situation and be motivated enough to create the new habits that cause financial progress. To move our mindset to the right direction, we can compare finances to something more fun and relatable, something that most people recognize as a universal language, dance. That's the title, move it. Dancing with money. I forgot to say that earlier. To be a good dancer, you have to acquire many skills. The same is true for finances. In fact, dance and finances share many of the same skills, and that is what we're going to be going over in this quick read book. By understanding these skills, we can come out from under the covers and face the scary monster called finances. We will be able to implement these body and mind skills to our everyday lives so we can discover hope in our finances. Going back to that poem. The 7 skills we will cover are as follows: control, focus, balance, flexibility, habits, consistency, and trust. 5 years after the London Bridge avoidance, my friend Erica asked me to join her dance class at the other studio in town. I agreed to participate in this new terrifying experience. Questions ran through my mind as my dad drove me to my first class. Do I have to do London Bridge at the studio too? Are they going to require me to do it in front of the parents? But I'm older now, so there's no way they're going to make me do London Bridge, right? Those fears disappeared 5 minutes into class when I realized I had a bigger obstacle to face. Because I was scared to speak my mind and face my fears when I was 5, the other girls were all ahead of me with their dance skills. I had wasted 5 years of practicing dance. Now I was behind, and I would have to catch up by working harder. The girls around me had perfect control over their bodies as they did in arabesque. They were able to spot during a perfect pirouette turn. They were balancing on releve while I was falling towards the bar. They were able to kick above their shoulders while I could barely kick to my waist. They had learned their bad habits of stickling their toes, and they had perfect pointed toes. They had the ability and stamina to practice over and over without a break and no mistakes. And lastly, I didn't trust my skills or have the same bond that the other girls had formed. My 5 minutes of weakness and childish behavior had me set back behind, and I would have to do quadruple hours to catch up to my classmates' abilities. I ended up participating in both dance studios in town, and I was also on the high school dance team. I took tap, jazz, and ballet at one studio and clogging, modern, and contemporary at the other studio. The dance team practiced 5 days a week, working on their jazz, pom, and kick routines. This hard work resulted in me winning state 3 out of the 4 years I was on the team. I participated in the Macy's Day Parade in 2011. I trained with Mandy Moore from So You Think You Can Dance on the Orange Bowl and the Holiday Bowl in 2012 and 2013, respectively. I was stretching every time I watched TV, doing tendus while waiting in the lunch line. I was doing leaps down the high school hallways. With all of those extra hours I caught up, I finally did it. I was on the same level of skills as the classmates. This same thing can happen with our finances. The longer we avoid our finances, the more work it will be to catch up to reach our goals. The more time you waste, the more time you are losing out on compound interest working for you in your retirement accounts. Now is the time to come out from under the covers and start working towards your financial goals. Today is the day that you decide to view finances as a fun dance towards success. Now let's take that first step, leap together as we learn how to take control of our finances. Ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you.
This is the first one of these I've ever done. I didn't start writing until after I retired. So I wrote my first book at 68. I'm 74 now, and I just finished my 6th novel. So I thought I'd read a very, very short chapter, because I don't want you to suffer. And I thought I would pass on a poem. I really kind of need this guy, because this poem should be read by a girl, and he's a voice guy. But this poem I'm reading, it was actually written by my daughter after she came to spend the weekend with me. It's called Morning at Dad's. There is sawdust in the coffee that comes in dime store mugs. Mugs bought after the divorce where he got the dog, the gray, cancerous dog that lounges on my bed with flannel sheets, and flannel sheets that are also full of sawdust from the construction of our lives of dime store mugs, and dogs with cancer, and coffee filled with sawdust. This last book that I wrote, I've written a few. One was a little bit more of a biopic. A couple of them were, which I'm supposed to do a disclaimer on, because semi-autobiographical, because apparently the statute of limitations doesn't expire on some things. But this one is called The Deathbed Confessions, and you gotta forgive me, I'm a little nervous. And disorganized. This is a gripping mystery where a dying mob fixer holds the keys to decades of unsolved crimes. The deathbed confessions pulls readers into a tense, twist-filled race against time as a rookie FBI agent uncovers secrets some would kill to keep buried. And the story is about a young fella who's he's an FBI rookie, and he gets his first assignment is with this guy who's a calloused criminal who's a lifer. Except now he's getting out of prison, he's dying, he has cancer. So they send him to spend time at his deathbed to see if he'll confess to any other crimes that are still open on the police ledgers. And the two of them go at it almost immediately, toe-to-toe, sparring, and it takes a toll on both of them. And our rookie guy is an Army War veteran. He's got a degree in forensic psychology, but this guy is just grinding him right into dust. So he sits down, he goes to bed one night, and this is what happened. This is called bad dreams. I struggled to the surface in a sweat-soaked frenzy, fighting my way up through tangled bed sheets. My small studio apartment was dark, darker than usual, and my sleep-clouded eyes couldn't seem to adjust. Sitting up, I swung my legs onto the floor and tried to piece together the shreds of why I'd woken in such a state of confusion in a room where I could barely see my hand in front of my face. Reaching out, I pulled the small chain on the bedside lamp, but the light did not come on. The power was out. That explained the darkness. The whole block must have been out because there was no ambient light either. No light pouring in through the windows from below, no street lights. It was late enough so that no headlights passed in the street below. The silent, dark world of after-midnight dread. A blinding flash of lightning suddenly lit the two windows at the end of the room, the flash so intensely bright that it seemed right outside, only feet away. Reflexively, I threw my hands over my ears and dropped back down onto the damp pillow, waiting for the thunder. But even before it arrived, another flash, also impossibly bright, lit the room in dark silhouettes of black and white. Then the thunder arrived, and I cringed, trying to make myself as small as possible. Pushing myself across the bed, I braced my back against the wall and clutched the pillow to my chest. Unbidden, tears filled my eyes, and beyond reason, I sobbed as the thunder rattled the loose glass panes of the old windows. It was an instantaneous transition. The flashes, the great pounding thunder, the flashes of lightning lighted a different landscape behind my tightly closed eyes. I couldn't help it. I felt the world tilt away from me, and I slid. I slid down and into the abyss of my own secret hell. My eternal shame in a scenery lit in photographic snapshots of black and white. Razor wire. Razor wire stretched across my vision. Grimy faces, eyes wide with the terror of the moment. Another flash, a body where a boy had been standing in the last flash. The earth trembling with the explosions, the rattle of automatic weapons. The storm raged inside of me while the storm raged outside against my apartment windows. In the thunder of the storm, I again heard the screams, "Mayday, mayday, mayday, we have incoming." And then finally, medic. Medic, medic, medic. More ammo. For 15 minutes, the storm outside poured down its fury, the wind-blown rainwater sheeting off the windows in wavy torrents, splashing on the sills below. And for those 15 minutes, I stared blindly into my past. It didn't happen every time, but when it did, the paralyzing dread rendered me weak and vulnerable. It was 15 minutes of wrong place, wrong time of my past. 15 minutes, it is said, is such a short time in a man's life. Only a moment, really. It only takes a moment to change the course of someone's life. Just 15 minutes, but an eternity of sensory overload. Afghanistan, the wind whipping the sand in a frenzy of static electricity. Visibility almost zero. But still they came. And we fought back. The brigade lost at least one man for every half hour, day after endless day. The sky was filled with static discharge, flashing lightning, crashing thunder in tinder-dry air. The thunder roared down on us from on high, and when it did, it brought mortars and rockets with it, and death. We couldn't find our ammo in the murk. We couldn't find each other in the wind-whipped landscape. And most of all, we couldn't find the dead as they were buried in the blinding sand. "You ever been shot, kid?" he had asked. I hadn't even known it happened. I only noticed later, after the storm had passed.
My memory exists in mere fragments. When I look back, I can only reflect upon those snapshots I am no longer able to view, and how it felt to let go. The agony I experienced in severing myself from the past, an agony which burned so ferociously in my soul, I would have let it consume me if its flames did not cause the right pieces of my life to char and fall off. Those I needed to fall off so I could be reborn. I now find myself living within a frame, one so comfortable, at times I forget the pain of my past. I forget the struggle of trying to confine myself within this frame, distorting my likeness in an attempt to make room for those extra pieces, in an attempt to make room for you. Your name rarely crosses my mind now, and the features of your face have faded more and more with time. When I think of you, often all which comes to mind are the charred remains at the edge of the space you once took up. I'm happy within my frame. I found so much love and joy within it. Trying to make room for you would have made it impossible for me to fit in the way I do now. My happiness would have been made non-existent. But such a reality does not relieve the pain of the past. I find comfort in knowing it's all you'll ever be a part of. I had to detach you. Your piece of this photo contained nothing more for me to see. I want to preface this next one by saying I am in a much better place mentally than this next poem would suggest. It is about my struggles in life living with borderline personality disorder and some of the trials and tribulations that came along with it. It's called Borderline. It's torment. It's torment from the deepest parts of myself, and no matter how hard I work, how much I think I've healed, it's always there, eating away at my mind until all which remains is its parasitic presence. The only relief I find exists in chasing the highest of highs, as if flying a plane I don't know how to land, knowing the aftermath will be flames, yet choosing to light the match. My inferno engulfs the bridges built over months, years, decades, as I watch friends and family leave while my scars grow internally, unable to provide them with any meaningful apologies, clueless about what to say outside of "I'm sorry for being me." Knowing toxicity exists in phrases, though being unable to find rhetoric to better explain it. The why, the reason for the unbearable pain, the one abusing Klonopin to numb my demons away, the one with open wrist and white sheets seeped with bloody stains, the one to disappear from my body when relieved of all its weight. And I've tried. I've really tried. Though no amount of effort can fill the void where my personhood should be. Every day my insides scream, burning in the dark depths of my personal hell, a torture from which only the sweet nothingness of death will set me free. My days are spent on the borderline of life and death. My personality treads onward, balancing me carefully until I one day slip or fall purposefully. Thank you.
I'm going to read an excerpt from my novel. The title is called Blood Moon, and it is a fantastical world filled with humans and monsters, and the struggle between the two. So, our main character is Shiloh, his name, and he's been living an ideal life, and that gets torn away from him, and it sets him on a journey. Now, I'm going to throw you in to kind of in the middle of it. I'm sorry, this is the best place I could think of to start, because I can't, last time I was at a meeting, I read for 30 minutes straight, and I didn't even realize it, so I can't do that here. So I will try to limit it and keep it short. So, here we go. I'll give you some context. Shiloh is fighting a vampire whose name is Chiron. Chiron has just slaughtered the village that he's been living in. He just killed a woman he was interested in, and so this is the aftermath of it. And in a previous chapter, you learned Shiloh is more than what he appears to be, and there you get a peek of it in the first chapter, and this is where the curtain gets thrown open. So here we go. "You killed her," Shiloh said. "Yes, I did. And what are you going?" Chiron arrogantly beginning to respond. "Be silent," Shiloh shouted, cutting him off. Shiloh then began to push himself off his spear, groaning in pain as he did. Chiron watched in disbelief due to what he believed to be a mortal enduring this much pain. Off the spear, with blood flowing from his shoulder, Shiloh straightened up and clenched his fist. "You will pay for her life with your own. This I swear by he who has no name," Shiloh swore with conviction. "You dare invoke him in my presence?" Chiron exclaimed, breathing sharply as he continued. "Very well. The night ends here and now for you. Die knowing that I shall feast well on those precious children you saved." Chiron rushed forward, arms outstretched, claws poised, and mouth open, baring his fangs. His right hand was aimed for Shiloh's neck, but Shiloh dodged enough that it grasped his left shoulder. They were falling to the ground together, interlocked. Digging his claws in for a better grip, Chiron moved in for the kill with his mouth. Shiloh brought his right arm to block Chiron from reaching his neck. It didn't matter to Chiron, who bit down into the arm. Shiloh gritted his teeth in response. Shiloh could feel Chiron beginning to suck his blood. The unnatural flow was sapping not only physical strength, but also the strength of will. Chiron's vivid eyes brightened and rolled back in pleasure, but only for a moment. His expression of pleasure quickly turned to bewilderment. Shiloh's eyes flared up, and Chiron was suddenly hit by Shiloh's psychic aura, causing him to convulse. "Shiloh, think spikes," Drusilla ordered. "Spikes?" Shiloh asking in his head. Drusilla exerted herself, reaching beyond Shiloh's soul, using his thoughts, and formed Shiloh's blood in Chiron's mouth into 3 blades, piercing his cheeks and lower jaw. Shiloh, seeing the opportunity, punched Chiron square in the chest, denting the armor and splitting his mouth open in 3 places. Chiron flew back, hitting the ground, and tumbled. Shiloh stopped himself after 1 flip, then rose to his feet. Chiron stayed on the ground, healing himself. The sound of bones shifting back and flesh mending was very audible. Once his jaw was back together, he moved it in a circular motion and wiped some blood off his fangs. Then he looked at Shiloh with apprehension. "What in the abyss are you?" Chiron asked. Shiloh made no response. He just ripped the remaining clothes off his torso and began to regenerate. All the cuts, scrapes, punctures, burns, and broken bones mended, but it didn't stop there. Shiloh felt even his very soul, mind and soul, rejuvenate. With nothing left to hide, he went further. His eyes brightened when his physique began to change. His chest broadened, limbs slightly grew in length, and sharp claws on every digit. A bony ridge formed on his forehead. All his bones thickened. His muscle mass everywhere increased. Thick hair sprouted on his shoulders and down his spine. His ears shifted slightly, and the tips formed points. And lastly, all his teeth became sharp and pronounced. Chiron was afraid now. Moments ago, he was finishing a wounded mortal. Now, as far as he knew, He faced a being the likes of which the world had never seen, at least in this form. In this new and fully awoken form, Shiloh now towered over Chiron and had a far more formidable presence. Shiloh's blood and soul now raged. He was beyond words. Only deep guttural growls escaped his lips. Chiron trembled, and Shiloh, with his vampire sight, could see everything. Heartbeat, electrical pulses on nerves, muscles refusing to steady, lungs rapidly respirating. Neither moved from where they stood for a bit. To the world it was but a moment, but to each other many moments. Then Chiron simply shifted his weight on one foot backward slightly to steady his stance, causing Shiloh to react with impossible speed, crossing the distance fast. Chiron only just barely avoided Shiloh's powerful swipe by ducking down, though lost the ends of his hair. Chiron darted forward and slashed Shiloh's legs, leaving deep gashes. However, by the time he jumped back to avoid Shiloh's downward strike, they were already healed. Impossible, Chiron said, completely stupefied. Shiloh pulled his fist from the impression in the ground and flexed his fingers. He started towards Chiron with slow and intimidating steps. Chiron decided to alter his fighting style and pierced his palms with his own claws. As Chiron bled, the blood began to flow, forming two spheres beneath his hands instead of dripping to the ground. One spear formed into the shape of a falchion, a one-handed, single-edged, yard-long, narrow, and slightly curved sword. The other elongated to form a bladed whip. The blood weapons remained liquid, constantly flowing, and yet retained the shape Chiron willed them into. The blood whip was moving through the air, never touching the ground, as if gravity held no sway over it. You have power, but it's raw and untrained. Time to show you how a real vampire does battle, Chiron said. Chiron then cracked the whip, forcing Shiloh to dodge backward, then lunged forward over the deep grooves it left in the ground, including an exposed stone. Chiron majestically swung the sword in front of him, holding Shiloh at bay. Being forced to dodge the sword, Shiloh didn't see the whip coming at him. It hit with full force and in numerous places, causing severe wounds. Shiloh fell back to buy time for his wounds to heal, but Chiron had become relentless. He seemed to have convinced himself that he could be victorious if he utilized his superior skill and training. So Shiloh was forced to keep falling back, but as he did, he studied the blood weapons. All weapon masters tell their pupils that a weapon is an extension of their body, but for vampires it appeared to be literally true. The blood weapons seemed to be free of interference from outside forces, bending only to the will of the vampire. As Shiloh hit a wall, he reached around and tore a whole log from it, swinging it around at Chiron in a lateral arc. Chiron parried with his falchion, slicing the end of the log off, and brought the whip to bear. Shiloh blocked it using the log, shredding it to splinters, but some of the blades still reached Shiloh, cutting up his arms. Shiloh leapt over Chiron, to get space to maneuver. Chiron reacted by raking the whip across Shiloh's legs as he went over. Coming down, Shiloh tucked and rolled for a bit, but before stopping. Still crouching, he looked back at Chiron, who was swinging both the falchion and whip around incredibly fast. How can I win, Shiloh thought. Your regenerative powers are greater than his. Also, his arrogance is his weakness. Play on your strength and his weaknesses, Rolf advised. Shiloh contemplated his father's advice, then formulated a plan. He stayed where he was, crouching on the ground. Chiron came at him, still swinging his blood weapons. Even with the world slowed, they were still hard to follow. Straining himself, Shiloh slowed the world more, though it wasn't easy with his rage-infused blood. Calming down a little, he began to revert slightly. No, I need to maintain this form for my plan to work, Shiloh thought. You must find a balance between your two halves, Drusilla explained. Actually, this might help. Looking defeated will draw him in for the trap. It's all about timing, Rolf noted. So Shiloh let his appearance revert and maintained the look of being exhausted. Watching Chiron come closer, Shiloh waited for the precise moment, and it came. As the falchion was thrust directly toward his head, he sheathed it in his left hand all the way to the hilt and deflected it away. Now Shiloh sprung his strap, letting his blood rage again. Chiron's face became a contorted mix of fear and anger as he sensed what was happening, though he continued with bringing the whip down. As Shiloh transformed, his left hand gripped Chiron's right, keeping the falchion where it was, and the whip wrapped around his right arm, cutting him but stopping. Now Chiron was right where Shiloh wanted him, trapped and unable to use his blood. Chiron struggled to break free, but made no gains. Realizing his situation, he became terrified. With a swift and strong kick, Shiloh sent Chiron flying across the square and through a partially burnt cabin. The kick had torn Chiron's arms off at the shoulder and sundered his armor. Shiloh had heard the crunching metal. The blood weapons, upon being separated, fell to the ground in a giant splash. "Now's your chance, Shiloh. Give chase and tear 'em apart," Rolf exclaimed. Shiloh lazily dropped the arms and pursued his quarry. Chiron, on the other side of the cabin, was screaming in agony. His sternum was shattered and ribs broken, his bones cracked as they began mending, pushing the cratered breastplate off his torso. The blood pouring from the stringy stump ends began forming arms. The blood would take shape, then transform into something. First the bones, then muscle layers, and lastly the skin. Chiron was groaning and breathing heavily when it was finally all over. He jerked his head up, hearing the thud of Shiloh landing on the roof of the cabin, causing the remaining supports to creak. Shiloh then leapt down right on top of Chiron's position, causing the roof to collapse. Chiron dodged, and Shiloh impacted, leaving an imprint on the earth. Chiron's face was visibly fearful, illuminated by the flames that silhouetted Shiloh, except for his glowing amber eyes. Chiron felt his arms and chest as if looking for something, looking down only to be reminded that he had no armor there now. His head snapped back to reveal a panicked face. Then he bolted. Shiloh followed and soon was right on his heels. Shiloh could feel the pressure that came with a vampire using telepathy, but he heard no words. Suddenly Shiloh heard the flapping of wings and felt the disturbance of the air, just before a sonic blast hit him from behind, forcing him to the ground on his front. But with his forward momentum, he slid for a bit, but found his footing and sprung up to run again. Chiron had gained a lead, but nothing that couldn't be overtaken. "No, not from behind. That doesn't slow him down enough. From the front! The front!" Chiron shouted. Now, just a minute. I keep forgetting that, the up and down arrows don't work. Yep. Just let me find where I was. Yeah, it went back upward again. Not down. It was wanting it to. Okay, here we go. The giant bat veered off to circle around, and Shiloh caught up, forcing Chiron to use evasive techniques. Everything from ducking, leaping from wall to wall of cabins, and even running on walls. With the amount of energy behind their movements, many of the cabins took damage on contact. Several times, Shiloh swiped at Chiron, and each time he managed to evade them. His claws were leaving furrows everywhere, the ground, walls, and roofs. Chiron was just barely keeping ahead of him as their chase led all over the village. The sonic blasts from the bat also did damage, but due to the chaotic zigzagging, the giant bat had managed another successful attack, so Chiron went back to a straight line. But this allowed Shiloh to catch up, and Chiron, acting out of sheer desperation, leapt through the window of a burning cabin to his left, springing off the wall of another to his right. The giant bat now had a clear shot for an attack, and attack it did. The timing was perfect. As Chiron went left, the sonic blast blew Shiloh backwards several yards before he came to a stop. Chiron burst out the front door and landed in the square. Finally, he was where he wanted to be. Racing to his torn arms, he grabbed them by the hands and began to absorb them right through the skin by turning them into blood. What he really wanted, though, was his left pauldron, which is an armor piece left on the shoulder, if you don't know. It was a few yards away, by the cabin he had been kicked through. He hurried, for he knew he had little time. As if right on cue, Shiloh appeared and his peripherals coming at him. Reaching his pauldron, Chiron pierced his hand on the spike that was in the middle of a rune inscribed on the metal and closed his eyes, hoping that he had made it in time. Shiloh was mere inches away when Chiron disappeared in a puff of red mist. Shiloh stopped after running through it, looking confused. What was that, he thought. Not again. I keep forgetting. What was that? He thought. He teleported using a magical rune, Drusilla explained. Teleported? Where is he now? Shiloh asked, looking around. With the rune and blood sacrifice that small, he must still be close, Drusilla explained. Just then, a puff of red mist manifested in the air above the square, and Chiron emerged from it, falling on top of the center post, causing the bell to faintly ring. Shiloh whipped his head around to see Chiron atop the post and ran that direction. Chiron stood up, balancing on the post, stretching his right arm upward. Get me out of here, Chiron commanded. Shiloh ran and leapt with the goal of eviscerating Chiron, or knocking him off the post at least, but he was hit by another sonic blast from the side, which sent him crashing to the ground. As the giant bat swooped past, Chiron leapt and grabbed a hold of its leg. It ascended, quickly fleeing into the dark night sky. Shaking off the daze, Shiloh looked up to see them high above the light from the fires. Bringing his gaze back down, he spotted his spear still stuck in the ground and rushed to it, determined to not let them escape. Grabbing his spear, he aimed upward and threw it with all his might. The spear soared up and pierced the giant bat through the chest. The night was filled with its death shriek echoing across the valley. As it and Chiron began falling from the sky, Chiron began screaming in anger. However, just before he came into the light of the fires, he curled into a ball and flung his limbs outward. As he completed this motion, his body transformed into a cloud of blats and flew off just as quickly as they had appeared. His remaining armor and the giant bat came crashing to the ground thunderously. A few moments later, the cold, nausea, and pain in his head that Shiloh had been feeling since entering Chiron's presence vanished, meaning he had successfully escaped. Shiloh now felt that he had truly failed. A swelling tempest of emotion filled Shiloh's soul. For the first time in Shiloh's life, Drusilla's anger rivaled Rolf's, maybe even surpassed it. Unable to do anything more, he clenched his fists so hard they bled and vented his anger to the world. Coward! Shiloh shouted at the top of his lungs. Shiloh screamed until his anger burnt out of him. At the end of it, he felt nothing. There you go.
Hi. I have two things to read to you today. The first thing is a poem I wrote. So, let's get to that. I forgot to print it out. My bad, guys. Okay. You know you're just overreacting. You don't know what true pain is. Okay, well, let's play with knives. True pain is the poetic lies we tell each other, pretending our ashes do not fall from my tongue, my blood burning from the way it touches, ripping it from my throat and strangling you with it, crawling on my knees in sickening validation, bloody feet from miles of sprinting as you grow away, pulling me in for a hug and a poisoning kiss. I can feel myself drowning under every shadowed word and every speech I forgot to memorize, choking on the oxygen of you. Strike the match and burn the house, the home made of shattered glass. Tip back a glass of fine lies. It's okay, love, don't you cry. You know mommy is always here. Stabbing in the back, detailed map to my scalpel, guilt carves me open. A feast to unveil, an apple ripe for picking. Twisted words and jaded jewels, making me small and molded not to spoil the surprise. At your beck and call, chattering teeth just in case. Resentment in my bones, plastic smile and synthetic hair. Play nice with others now, darling. Run your fingers through my hair. Wow, what a pretty thing you are. I always wish I could look like you. Lick the love from iron daggers. What do you mean that's not normal? The 25th will come quicker than I think, so ink my route and line it in. Sorry, I accidentally clicked out of it. My bad. Okay. So I ink my route and line it in red. You'll beg and cry and say, I can't believe you. You know you're just overreacting. You don't know what true pain is. Okay? Well, true pain is every word I've outlined for you, picking that scab over and over again, even though I know it will bleed. Ashes in my hair and matches on the ground. Perfect child gone with your blood on their hands. This is my life, and I was always going to leave. So lick your own daggers and pick your own scabs. Carve your own feast and play with your own dolls. This is your own doing, but for now, I'll wait for the 25th, 18th time. So, that one. So this is an excerpt from the novel I'm writing. I'm on chapter 4 of it. If I were to give you context for it, we would be here forever because I can't ever stop talking. So, let's get to the point. Oh, trigger warning, we'll talk about suicide, so just want to put that out there real quick. Okay. I brush my fingers over his grave, bearing his name. Rome, Ethan Rosenberg, November 14th, 2008, December 26th, 2023. Underneath reads a Mark Twain quote. Kindness is a language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Who would have known Rome was a Mark Twain fan? I didn't, not until Rome's dad told me so at the funeral, explaining to me why he picked that. The fact that I didn't know drives a knife in my gut deeper. The knife that has been twisting in my gut since Rome decided to stuff pills down his throat, go back to bed, and never wake up again. It's killing me, and I'm not the dead one. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's almost a year since, and it doesn't make sense. Everything feels so incredibly precarious, every step landing on shards of glass in a room filled with smoke without a door. I am so lonely, so irreversibly lonely. And the funny thing was, I wasn't even close to Rome. Not in the way Ember was, or Daniel, Kate, or Jada. They were his real friends. The friends he could count on to hold his hand. I get me not being enough to keep him here, but why weren't they enough? Why wasn't his dad? Why wasn't his brother? Why weren't we enough? The questions keep slicing themselves through me, knife after knife. Why didn't he ask for help? Why didn't we see the warning signs? Were there any warning signs? Why would he choose this over and over again? Why? Why this? Because we used to all be friends. The best of friends, the perfect friends, and we were fine, and I'm so immaculately angry. Because why could he do this? And I wish I could go back in time and demand people to look at him, to not blink, because maybe then we would see him, and he would be here. And now we're like stars that broke because they never got wished on. We're nothing, because we were not enough. And if we're not enough to keep his feet on the ground, to get his wish to come true, why would we be enough for anything else? We are nothing but not enough. We're broken, and we will never be anything else.
Somewhere along the rock, somewhere along